So this is where we take that plan that we had and we turn them into some sort of activities that determine if we're doing the right thing. So I mentioned McDonald's yesterday as having the Big Mac being the highest quality burger in the world. If I was a QA person for McDonald's, I would be the person that shows up that probably has a clipboard checklist, and I'm making sure to see that did the teller say thank you, welcome to McDonald's, may I please take your order? Did they get that message? Did they put 2 napkins in, or did they only put 1, or maybe they put an extra, they put 3, right? I'm looking to see, are they following the steps that we asked them to do, right? Are they doing everything in the right way? Did they put is the oil turned up to the right temperature? All of these things, right? So it's not about the deliverable, but it's about all the steps. We're going to take the plan, and then specifically here, we'll look at the quality management plan, right? This outlines our approach to quality. We'll take the metrics. This is an output from plan quality, right? We came up with this when we planned quality management, the metrics themselves, the risk report. Are we at risk of being able to meet these requirements with consistency? And then we'll use some of these same tools and techniques that we've seen. So we'll talk about those in a second. And then the output will be the quality report, right? Something new, John, for you. All right, risk report and now quality report. We'll also get our test and evaluation documents. And then we could potentially get requests for change, updates to our approach or our document. So let's jump in. So the main piece here is to get our test and evaluation documents to make sure that the process is going right. So how many of you been to Krispy Kreme? Okay, they got those everywhere. All right, and so you've been inside and you've seen like the batter that pours into the oil, and then the donuts float and they come up on the little conveyor belt, and then they go through the heat exchanger and they rise, and then there's a little glaze, and here comes a donut that goes over the glaze, and then there's all these glazed donuts. They come back around, and that's where we stand at the glass and we're like, ooh, we're on over the donuts, right? Okay. So there's always that person that's there and they have the donuts and they're like, good donut, good donut, good donut, and then bad donut. Good donut, bad donut. The picker, right? They call us the picker. I know that because my dad works in these bakeries. All right, so the picker, okay? That's QC, right? That's quality control. We're looking at the deliverable. Did that donut rise? Does it have enough glaze? That's quality control. Quality and now the output. Right? If I go back, quality control, the output of that is going to be the quality control measurements that happens in monitoring control. And you see how that's an input here. The data that says, okay, for every 100 donuts, the picker is recording 10 bad donuts. Okay, that's a 10% defect rate. That data then becomes an input to this process for us to check the process. And then it'll allow us to say, okay, well, do we need to turn the heat up, right? Donuts aren't rising. Maybe that's the defect. We're getting these flat donuts. Do we need to turn the heat up in the oil, or do we need to let the donuts stay in the oil longer, right? Could be one of those things. Maybe when it's on the heat exchange, same thing. Should we turn that up, or should we slow down the conveyor belt so it spends more time? So quality assurance is going to have us do that. And that's where we get these test and evaluation documents, right? Because we're looking at the process. We're looking at the process to make sure that the process is creating deliverables that will be tested and inspected via quality control, and it'll pass. So when they don't pass, those inputs become an input. Those outputs become an input to this process. So it's kind of like the chicken and the egg, by the way, quality assurance and quality control, right? They kind of feed into each other. And then based on that, we get this quality report. And it'll tell us, right, whether it's graphical, numerical, could just be in words, right? Qualitative, but it'll tell us like, what our error or defect rate is, what the sources are, how we could possibly correct them if we need to, or maybe there's preventative action that we need to take, because that's the PMI way, prevent errors from happening in the first place. We don't want to correct them. We want to prevent them. All right, so these are the outputs that we're getting from this process, from quality control. In fact, one of my favorite shows, I Love Lucy, all right? If you remember that episode with the chocolate. You know where I'm going there, and the chocolate's on the conveyor belt, just trying to eat the chocolates. And that is a very good example of quality assurance and quality control happening. So if you get a moment, go YouTube that, and then you'll just see it and be like, oh, okay. All right, so that's what we're trying to get. We're really trying to get here. Let me go back. These test and evaluation documents in the quality report. We're trying to add to this quality report. That's the key output in this process, right? And in order to get that, we'll take the quality plan that had our approach. We'll take the documents, maybe lessons learned from the past, definitely the quality control measurements so that we can evaluate our process, right? Because that's what we're doing in this. That's what this process is all about. This process of managing quality is about making sure that the processes in our project are good, right? And we'll take the risk report and the metrics that we want to be looking at. So we'll gather data, maybe checklist. All right, conditions are satisfied. Yes, they did in fact say, welcome to McDonald's, man, take your order. Yes, they did in fact only put 2 packets of ketchup in. All right, and then we can analyze the data. Okay, why is it that we have a high level of customer satisfaction at 9 of 10 stores, this one store? The people, they're all following the process, right? What's happening? So we'll analyze it to look for alternatives, root cause analysis. Maybe this is where In-N-Out figured out we'll send folks out, you know, to take your order on roller skates. We'll represent that data. Go ahead.
So this is just the generating of like the report format. There's no testing going on in this.
Yeah, there's no testing. This is us looking at the process, right? So if I go to that In-N-Out process, right? This is me saying, okay, I'm going as an input. We have our plans, right? But I'm really looking at the measurements. These are the main inputs we're taking, right? So now I'm looking at how many people are trying to leave my line or how many people are filling out negative, you know, reports when we're asking them if they did well or surveys, et cetera, right? And then I'm going and I'm doing that by, you know, either using checklist and however I gather that data. Now I got to go analyze it. And then when I analyze it, then I got to represent it. So I'm going to represent it to some way that's going to cause people to take action. Remember that from the exam, right? So I'm going to analyze this data, do root cause and say, you know what it is? We're finding that if there's 6 cars or more that people are looking to back out, but, you know, if we come out and take their order, you know, so we've given them an alternative, then people will stay, right? And we'll use some sort of, you know, diagram to show that. We may even go back and do financial analytical techniques and say, hey, we should try this. And, you know, here's what the present value and net present value, internal rate of return, et cetera. We'll look at all of these things. We'll represent that data so that people can make decisions. And then we'll audit the process. We'll go back in. We'll you know, a structured observation, an audit. Now, there's a quality audit where it is a structured independent review. And that's what we see here, right? Where this is another company comes out and they audit your processes. But normally we would have our own internal quality team that would test and inspect, and they're probably more rigorous than the outside audit. So that way the outside audit is just a formality. So note that for PMI, this quality audit here that we see here, it just needs to come from outside the team. All right, it can be in the same organization. Right, so you know, if you're making drugs, if you're Pfizer is going to have its own audit division that's separate from every other project team, and then they will audit all of those project teams, and they will likely audit them in a stiffer manner than the FDA will. All right, so that's the quality audit, which, by the way, quality assurance or managed quality is a quality audit. They're literally the same things. It's just that when somebody from outside the team does it, it's a quality audit. When the team does it, we call it quality assurance, right? But it's literally the act of us gathering information, analyzing it, making sure that things are working to spec, and if they're not, recommending preventative and corrective actions, right? And that's where we get this structured approach to eliminating issues. And then the different data representation techniques, if we deep dive, the affinity diagrams, and we can group either requirements or in this case defects, right? You can use a fishbone diagram, flow charts, you know, bar charts, histograms, any matrix scatter diagrams. So Any of these you all need me to deep dive into, or are you familiar with all of them? Okay.
Pretty good.
Okay. Oh, well, we show them anyways. Here's your fish bone, head of the fish is fine, right? So the audit that we talked about earlier, the structured independent review, right, has to be outside the team. So often conducted by an external team. Just needs to be outside the team, right? Doesn't need to, it can be the same company, but just needs to be outside the team. And design for X, right? We want to optimize a specific aspect of a product design. All right, so this would be Apple saying that, okay, we're designing for security. Let's add a facial recognition component, you know, so that's the idea there. So in order to do this, you figure out what the problem is. Problem is that sometimes my hands are wet or my fingers are wet, you know, maybe I'm snowboarding and I need to unlock my phone and I don't want to take my hand out my glove and all that stuff, right? That's the problem. Can I just put the phone to my face, right? So that's your design for X. Are you guys familiar with this? Use a lot in tech, some of you, okay. This is not going to come up on exam that much, right? This is not like a, you know, I know there's a slide here, but it's one of the ways that we can use, right? We saw that there's many different ones. We saw that here. All right, so design for X is just one of those ways where you're specifically looking at a part of your product and you're trying to figure out how to make it better, right? In the least amount of words, is what that is.